Soon Amma would be coming home where she belonged, and then the family would be whole again. Despite feeling bad about David, the idea of having Amma back gave Efren an extra spring in his step this Friday morning. Once she was back, he'd finally find the courage to tell David the truth and patch things up with him. Until then, he needed to focus on helping Appa with everything at home and preparing for the election. To make sure he wouldn't be late to school anymore, he broke one of Amma's rules and took the twins to school on his bicycle, with Max sitting side saddle over the main crossbar and Mia across the foam-covered handlebars. It took a bit of getting used to the added weight and Max's wiggling, but eventually Efren managed, and riding to school also gave him plenty of time to visit the ASB Student Center and get started on a few campaign posters. As he locked up his bicycle, his mind scrolled through a long list of possible campaign slogans. Efren Nava, someone you can trust. Nope, not after what he'd done to David. Efren Nava para presidente. Nope. Efren Nava, make school great again. Definitely not. Efren Nava for ASB president. Efren Nava for ASB president. He liked the sound of that. He darted up the main stairway to Miss Sala's ASB room. She always kept her door wide open. It wasn't unusual for students, some she didn't even know, to randomly stop by and reach into the cookie jar she kept by the door. Good morning, Miss Salas. Oh, hi, Efren. Here to work on your campaign posters? Yes, ma'am. And thank you again for allowing me to run, especially on such late notice. Well, you did attend the meeting and you do meet all the academic requirements. I'm behind, but I've got some ideas for slogans. Hopefully they'll work well enough to get me elected. Efren eyed the cookie jar. Mind if I take a cookie? Not at all, that's why I bake them, she said, adjusting her glasses. You might want to take one to your friend. Friend? Miss Salas nodded. Yes, David, he's in the workroom designing posters. I think it's great that you two can compete against each other and still be friends. Yeah, it is. With that, Efren slipped a cookie into his pocket and headed for the workroom. Sure enough, David sat on the stool alone, his forehead scrunched and his tongue hanging out to the side. Oh, hey, Efren, said, plopping the cookie beside David. David looked up. Hey. Efren picked up a bright green sheet of poster paper and took a seat at a table containing just about every kind of art tool imaginable. He reached for a thick marker while studying the sample fonts on the wall posters. There were so many styles he could copy. Unfortunately, all the cool ones were way too complicated for him to even try. He picked up a pencil instead and decided to try his best cursive, but the letters came out uneven and curved in different directions. His eyes wandered to David's posters. His artwork was amazing. Each of his letters had a shadowy effect that made them pop out as if they were 3D. It must have taken him forever to make. Efren couldn't remember ever seeing his former friend, so focused on anything before. Being president really did mean a lot to David. Maybe Efren was wrong. Maybe running against him was a mistake. Looking down into his own work, Efren realized how difficult this campaign would be without David to help. Efren sighed. If he were going to win, it would be the message, not the artwork, that would get him there. After a few failed attempts at drawing his name, he considered typing out the message, then printing and gluing the letters onto the poster. But then, out of nowhere, a pack of stencils fell on top of his supplies. He looked over and watched David retake his seat as if nothing had happened. Efren eyed the stencils. All he had to do now was trace the cutouts in presto, perfect letters. Thank you, Efren said. But Efren's thank you went unanswered. Efren and David continued working side by side, never speaking a word until the bell rang. Miss Salas sat at her desk watching Efren and David both stop for one more cookie before leaving for first period. Down the hallway, the two boys made their way to class in total silence. The self-imposed silence continued well past the 15-minute nutrition break when the former best friends both returned to the workroom to complete another poster. As helpful as the stencils were, they still took a long time to use. So when lunch hour came, David and Efren were back in the workroom, except this time, just as David got up to leave, Efren pushed back his stool. David? David paused briefly by the doorway. Efren rushed over to him. I know what I did seems messed up, but I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have a good reason. David stopped to listen. Fine, go ahead and explain. What was worth stabbing me in the back over? There was a brief stare down. Efren knew what he needed to do. After all, David was his best friend and wouldn't tell a soul. He had nothing to fear. He took a deep breath and could feel the words building up inside. Unfortunately, they weren't alone. Shame came along for the ride. Was he embarrassed to admit that both Amma and Appa were undocumented? No, that wasn't it. Efren's tears welled up at the back of his throat, and the back of his throat began to feel raw. It wasn't the truth that embarrassed him, it was breaking down in front of David. I'm sorry, David. And with that, Efren hurried off. Once Efren and the twins were home after school, he spread the supplies and poster paper that Miss Salas had given him over the kitchen table. Max and Mia immediately took a seat next to him. Guys, I need to make a bunch of posters. Can I make one? Asked Mia. I'm good at art. Huh, Mia? Yeah, me too. I want to help. I appreciate the... Efren looked at the wide-eyed faces staring up at him. He didn't want a second round of Max's silent treatment, or Mia's. All right, here, he said, handing each a blank sheet of poster paper. Just make sure everything is neat and easy to read. Neither of the twins wasted a moment. Mia went straight for a ruler and Sharpie, while Max went for a brush and purple tempera paint. Efren looked carefully at his poster. There was definitely something missing. He bit down on his lower lip, trying to figure out what he needed to change. He reached for the packet of stencils and got to work. When he was done, he stood back and admired his handiwork. What do you guys think? Mia gave it a quick scan. Needs color. Efren Nava, 4 ASB president. The change you want to see. Yep, it needs a lot more color, Max replied, not bothering to even take a look. Efren rubbed his chin. I don't know, I kind of like it this way. How are you two doing with the posters? Me, I'm pretty much done, said Mia, holding up her poster. Efren's heart swelled. With large curvy letters, the bright red poster read, Vote for Efren, best big brother. I'm done too. See? Chimed in Max while smearing the purple paint on his face. I did it myself. Efren's heart sank as he read, Vote for Efren. I love him. He leaned down and squeezed the tins tightly. These are the most amazing posters I have ever seen.